Howdy, folks. Welcome to Doobies with Doug. Nice fat doobie. Full of green pot. Nice and dank. So I shot a video earlier, but A, it got interrupted, and B, it got too long and my phone didn't save it because it had a catastrophic memory clusterfuck. So I'm gonna have to sacrifice myself and my stash to keep up with my one a day Doobies of Doug. But I think I'm up to the task. Probably. So here's a weird thing. Somebody gave me this because they didn't like it. I know it's backwards, but on the label there it says Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it just so happens I met the people that run that show. They came to our farm years and years ago when I was farming with Chasmo and them guys. Good organic peanut butter. There's nothing in it but peanut butter but peanuts and sea salt. I prefer it without the sea salt. And when I had a grinder, I used to just buy roasted peanuts or even raw peanuts and roast them myself. That way I could roast them really dark, kind of burn them a little bit. That's the kind of peanut butter I like. And just grind it. I do up 5-6 pounds at a time. But that's pretty good stuff, even with the sea salt. Oh boy. Oh boy. There's some fine marijuana right there, I'm gonna tell you what. God damn. I cough any harder, y'all are gonna see my fancy socks. So, yeah, I just picked up a job. I'm painting the house. I picked up another job working for a grower off and on, which, considering the money I put out for licensing and cards and all of that shit, it's about time I started making money in that field, literally. Um, Got my groovy Playa de Sol t-shirt on, all the Aztec on it, and whatever. Yeah, I didn't do much today. Went and tore some stuff apart and threw it in the car and brought it home. And you see the black on my fingers, but I spray painted a pseudo cast iron half table like you put up against the wall, and it's a half circle. One of those. It's good to sit down and get stoned. I hate running around. I'd rather go to a job, stay at a job, work the job till it's done, and go home. run from place to place to place to place, buying parts, doing this, doing the other shit, and fucking around. I hate fucking around. But I also threw in an application today just because I know they're really short on workers, and it's a really easy class to take, and it's like a 3-hour class you have to take or something like that. But I might start doing some shifts flagging on the highway because regular pay is 18, but if you're working prevailing wage, if it's in one of the union jobs like through the state or through PUD or whoever, it's $29 an hour. And I already know from observing flaggers on the road that you can smoke cigarettes while you're flagging. So 18 to $29 an hour to stand around with a flag and flag stuff pointed at people. Sounds like a reasonable request. Yeah. Even if it's just, go do a job for 2 weeks on a specific highway project here in the county, $29 an hour just for 40 hours a week that's over $1,000. It's like $1,100. Bring home. Maybe not bring home. Might be around $1,000. Bring home 800, 900, 900 grand, something like that. So that's hard to sneeze at, no matter who you are. And if it's a road project, chances are you're going to be working 12-hour shifts. And to me, 8 and 12 really ain't all that different. It's just one more cigarette break longer. And if I'm not throwing hay bales or stacking manhole covers or unloading truckloads of floor jacks, I can pretty much go 16, 18 without dropping. Just standing there turning the flag around, Not beating the shit out of myself. I wouldn't have any problem doing 12-hour days for a couple of weeks. Because last I checked, time and a half on $29 an hour is like 44 something, 44.50. No, yeah, time and a half. It's almost $30 an hour, so it's almost $15 an hour added on for time and a half for overtime. So 12-hour days, that's 4 hours of overtime a day. It's a couple $100 a day, $180 a day or whatever it is of extra overtime money on top of your money. So I'm probably going to do a little bit of that. Gotta keep weeding the jar somehow, right? But a lot of it depends on how much this grower is going to be willing to work me. If he can work me enough for me to cover my weed for the week, every week, then I'm going to be a little less concerned about going anywhere for 8 hours a day. I didn't think that I was a phenomenal weed trimmer. I realized a long time ago there's people slower than me, but I never thought of myself as no Edward Ganja hands when it comes to trimming. I do all right until I moved to Oregon. And apparently they've always paid by the hour here, and it's like 15 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour. Now, I don't know how fast of a weed trimmer I would be if I learned it as an hourly job. All I know is that when you're getting paid $200 a pound and 20 people show up and there's 40 pounds, you got to move at a certain rate to make any money at all. Or the fast people are going to make 3 pounds and you're going to make 1 if you're lucky. So you got to be able to keep up, make money when you're doing it that way. That, and whenever time you look in your bowl, there's another $100. It's a little easier to stay inspired to keep trimming. You know? But really, what I want to do is do enough work for this guy to allow me to run one plant in his garden with my system. Because if we do that one time, one fucking time, one time. If we do that one time, he's never going to go back to growing how he does now. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but the system I use produces around twice as much bud for about half as much money, which is a, 400% increase in profit margins? I'm doing my math correctly? Or 200, something like that. I don't know. Weed's my strong point, not math. When the teacher told me in 3rd grade, "You're not always going to have a calculator," I'm like, "Yeah, I am." There's like 30 of them at my house, bitch. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm not always going to have a calculator on hand. This is 1979, not 1920. For fuck's sake. Honest, if I'd have known that Google was going to come as soon as it did, I would have dropped out of school in 4th fucking grade. Because I kept waiting for them to get to the good shit. And 7th grade was when I figured out they never get to the good shit. I've sat around with high school graduates, college graduates, doctorates, PhDs, master's degrees, whatever. Information is not knowledge, and knowledge is not wisdom. And none of them individually is intelligence. Wisdom is having a lot of knowledge and the intelligence to use it properly. Or as I've heard it said, there's 2 kinds of people in this world. Those who can extrapolate from existing information So you can't confuse having a lot of knowledge or knowing a lot of things or having studied a lot of things for being intelligent or wise or Ben Carson. 2 words for you. Ben fucking Carson. How long? Long time. That's how long we've been fucking Carson. No. Benjamin Carson, who was Trump's secretary of something. I don't remember what. The guy was a brain surgeon. Go on YouTube and Google just Google the words Ben Carson batshit crazy. And listen to some of the shit that comes out of this motherfucker's mouth. And he's a brain surgeon. A brain surgeon. Neurosurgeon. He honestly thinks that the fucking pyramids, the Great Pyramids in Giza, were built to store King David's grain. Yep. The leader of the so-called free world honestly thinks that if the pedophile in the black dress prays over these biscuits in high C, it turns into the body of a magical Jewish zombie on a stick. Ask him if that's not what he believes. Publicly get him to admit that he doesn't believe that a 400-year-old man put 15 million animals on a fucking boat from all over the globe, and that the entire world flooded without 1,000-year-old fucking civilizations that kept written records and stone walls not only didn't disappear, they didn't even mention a flood. This guy, he's the president of the United States, and he thinks a man lived inside a fish for 3 days. Magical Jewish zombies crackers. Charisma. Eloquence. Don't mean shit. If you speak Italian, Mussolini was eloquent as fuck and had a shitload of charisma. Which brings me to the topic of the week. Movies and movie stars. Okay. Who played Othello in the original production of Othello? The original. Who was the actress who played Juliet in the original production of Romeo and Juliet? You don't fucking know. You know who William Shakespeare is because he wrote it. And at some point, you don't know who wrote the story, but you can name everybody in the bar. You know the life story of the person who reads it to you. When did Brad Pitt become more important than the guy who wrote Troy. Charisma don't mean shit. And the real artist in movies, in the entertainment industry in general, are the people who make the show happen. The cinematographers, the writers, the directors, the people that piece this film together and turn it into a story. And these fucking addle-brained cokeheads from Hollywood just sit there and read fucking lines that they've memorized and try to pretend they're a person. It's the same game we play now. You be a cowboy and I'll be an Indian. Or you be Evel Knievel and I'll be a Sasquatch. Or what the fuck ever. That's the games you play when you're a kid. They just got really good at it and grew up and fucking... They're not the real artist. They might be an artist of a kind, but they didn't create the work. Think of a movie as a cover band for a book. and that's because of the way the official narratives train people from a very, 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 very young age. And then people pass that narrative on to their children to escape into this fantasy reality. And I love art as much as the next person. I love a cool movie, although there's very fucking few of them. But don't you think making these people the most revered people in our society is a little wrong? Is a little twisted up? Name three of the doctors, the scientists, who worked on these COVID vaccines. Name the world's youngest PhD. Name any one of the people that's working on the climate crisis. Name any one of the projects that's going on that's addressing fossil fuels. I mean, it's part of the reason I spend less and less time on Facebook and I spend more and more time just being very, very careful about what I let into my bubble. And I woke up the other morning and literally 30 or 40 in a row were Will Smith and Chris Rock. And it's the most ridiculous pile of fucking steaming Hollywood feces that's ever been laid on the fucking American people. And these, I don't, licking it the fuck up. It's just ridiculous, stupid, retarded. The first thing that happens when something like that happens is I go looking behind the scenes to see what the fuck happened today that they're trying to distract people from. When you're looking back on this period 25 years from now, this statement will make sense. to everybody hearing this statement right now, you're going to think I'm fucking insane. Will Smith and Chris Rock are directly connected to Joe Biden and Xi Jinping. You really can't do it from outside the country. But if you know some Chinese people, ask them what's been circulating on the subnet in China for the last week. And by the time this is history, this will all be public knowledge. Everybody will figure this out. And everybody I know that's not participating in the official narrative already knows what's going on. The United States is arming people who are at war with Russia. Now, you don't need to be a geopolitical expert to figure some shit out. China and India have the biggest trade agreement on the planet. It involves more cubic fucking inches of trade than any other motherfucking trade agreement by far on the planet. And right behind that is China and Russia. Now, a lot of my American friends might not be cognizant of this. The Chinese, especially their culture, they have a very long memory. And one of the things that they deeply remember is when the Japanese invaded them and took over. You know, that other vague part of World War II, the part they only teach about us fighting Japanese in the islands, bombing the island to end the war. They don't teach that that was the longest and most brutal part of the entire World War II was Japan's invasion of China and Russia and China teaming up together to push Japan back. China doesn't forget these things. Stalin saved Mao from the Japanese, not the United States. In fact, they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima in part to let Mao and Stalin know that they would. So America's arming somebody that's fighting Russia. Which isn't 100% accurate. America is arming, again, a separatist government that made a bunch of dirty business deals and got together enough economic and political power in a certain very rich part of the country, Kyiv and surrounding areas, and then got funding from the West in exchange for deeds. And if it comes right down to brass fucking tacks, Russia's going to do what it's going to do. And if NATO wants to keep arming Ukraine, nobody in NATO wants a world war. No one in NATO is going to trigger a world war. They're going to have to pull back. We're going to have to leave Zelensky hanging. And we're going to have to figure out how to do it without our own people burning down the fucking Capitol building. Because we're the ones that got us American people all fucking tits and giggles over Zelensky anyway. But we're going to have to leave him hanging. We don't have any choice. If China enforced sanctions against us equal to the sanctions we have against Russia right now, this place to be Mad Max in 3 weeks. We don't have enough boats or ports or equipment to unload those boats in this country to keep this country moving. We would have to do everything by jet. And we don't have the infrastructure to do it. We have the infrastructure, we don't have the planes. We would literally be using all of our military planes to transport food and batteries. So Biden puts out the fucking feelers to see what Xi Jinping has to say about this matter with Russia and China. And lo and behold, the next morning, the Fresh Prince slaps a comedian. Pseudo fake Roddy Piper slaps. If I was Will Smith, I would rather come out and admit that that was a fake slap than have the world think that's how I slap people. But anyway. Even I can't help get sucked into this fucking stupid narrative if for no other reason than to refute and point out the bullshit. Like, who the fuck cares what Will Smith and Chris Rock does? I'm here to tell you, Zelensky's is as wrong as a football bat. He's as fucking evil as any other oligarch. All those motherfuckers need to eat some acid. Zelensky, Putin, all of them. And Putin probably has eaten acid, actually. It sucks to be able to read people. But from moving and moving and moving and moving and moving and moving and moving my whole life, it's one talent I pick up on right away. I can read people. I can tell you 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, that Matt Damon is both an idiot and a dangerous person. Sick, twisted, fucked up person. Just a fact. And when I see, I'm at a speech, and I'm seeing President Bush and his brother Jebediah at this fucking convention speech, the governor's convention when Jebediah was running for his next term as Florida governor. And Georgie Porgy was fucking, they're campaigning for his brother even though he's president. I mean, these two motherfuckers together aren't smart enough to plot a peanut butter and jelly sandwich by themselves. I'm pretty sure George has to sing a little song to tie his fucking shoes. These are the kids that fail letter people in kindergarten. I'm serious. They're fucking dumb as fuck. And more than that, especially when you're a kid, you have to figure out very quickly what kind of moral character, moral fiber, what type of emotional body people carry around with them. And when I passed Senator Biden in a fucking airport in the 90s, I instantly came to the conclusion, without knowing who the fuck he was at the time, that man hadn't won. He was 100% vapid, vacant. Until he's told what to say, he has no idea how to respond to anything. He's given a set of instructions, he goes out and follows them. Doubt the man has ever had an original thought in his life. I've read the 1994 crime bill inside and out. I'm here to tell you he couldn't make it past the first fucking paragraph and be able to explain to you what it means. No fucking way. That crime bill has more fucking twists and turns in it than syphilis under a microscope. It's some of the fucking deepest legalese. It probably was the deepest legalese in the fucking Library of Congress until Obamacare passed. Which has got fucking chapters of legalese, man. Holy fuck. I can't even have that debate no more. I lost. No one had paid attention. Again, the official narrative. That's how we got fucked. Was everybody was arguing the official narrative. Because if you ask 99% of the people what was Obamacare about, they talk about insurance exchanges. They talk about insurance rates. They talk about Medicaid and Medicare and expansion into states. They didn't even read it. Because the insurance adjustments only represent probably 20% of what Obamacare did. And a whole shitload of other shit that was in Obamacare that made Obamacare good, rather got gutted out or has never been enforced. Things like transparency from drug companies, things like price gouging from hospitals, things like drug company influences over hospitals, doctors, and universities. The things that would actually change the face of healthcare. Like not allowing Dow to teach bullshit. Only fund colleges that will fucking teach 1950s fucking understanding of chemicals. Yeah. And it got lost in this insurance argument because that was the official narrative. They made it seem like that was the only narrative. And the reason they made it the only narrative is because the strongest lobbyist that had anything to do with that couldn't come out and openly lobby against it without looking dirty. So they went to the second strongest lobbyist. The strongest lobbyist being the pharmaceutical industry combined with the Chamber of Commerce, which includes every drugstore in every town. And they went to who? You remember? The Chamber of Commerce. which is by and large in almost every medium to small sized town, largely controlled by the local insurance agencies. Because every business in town needs insurance. Every municipality needs insurance. Every sheriff's department needs insurance. Every police department, every hospital, every store, every parking lot, every city street needs insurance. So the reason they kept the narrative about insurance was to make sure that the insurance people didn't get upset. Because really what needs to happen is we need to eradicate health insurance. Period. Public health is just as important, if not more important, than public streets, public sidewalks, public parks. And it's sure as fuck more important than public wars and public bombs and public guns. And so, yeah. Let's get started on that, can we? That's one of the things that needs to be done as soon as we put the dogs on the leash. Anyway, this has been Doobies with Doug, because this won't light no more. So we're done. 41 minutes later. These are getting longer, not shorter. But, I mean, look at my eyes. I'm fucking baked. Love and life.